Hey, what's up? Welcome to the channel.
Be sure to like and subscribe, and also check out the Discord link. Have you guys ever wondered if maybe there's something that you haven't covered in the settings? Maybe there's something that people are using to get an edge over you in War Thunder? Well, in today's video, we are going to be covering everything I have found to get an edge over an opponent over my roughly 5 years of playing this game. We're going to be covering controls, graphics, sound, options, you name it. We're covering it all in this video. First things first, you're going to open up War Thunder. You're going to be in your hangar. And you want to make your way up to the top left-hand corner. Go to Options. It's going to be your first thing at the top of the list. Once you open that up, you're going to come into your navigation menu. And starting from the top, you have main parameters. There's not really too much in this setting. All you have is gamma correction. Gamma correction can be an advantage. Maybe if you're in a night match, say you don't have thermals, don't have night vision, maybe you have a dark monitor or something, you should definitely play around with it. Alright, moving on to the next, more important, common battle settings. At the top, you have show bonuses on screen. I find this nice. This is more optional than anything, but personally, I like to have these always on. They help me keep track of, tasks or things I complete throughout the match, medals I'm earning, stuff like that. They pop up in the middle, top of the screen. Nice to have. I like them. Next up is damage indicator scale. This is important. You want to have this maxed out. This helps you determine the direction you are getting shot from. So this is very important to have. When you're getting shot in War Thunder, you don't always know exactly where they are shooting you from. And having a bigger damage indicator scale is going to help you determine that. Next up is camera shake. You're going to want to turn this off. If you have camera shake on, it's just going to hinder your performance. Automatically join squads. You're going to want to have this turned on, or yes. Basically, when you get into matches, it's going to give you an automatic squad mate. Now, not saying that you're going to get a good squad mate, but if he's right next to you by chance and you get shot, he can help you repair and things like that. So it's always good to have this on, even if your squad mate's a brainlet. Still nice to have. Then this is a big one. Join already active battles. Turn this off. I know this is already on for a lot of people. Make sure you have this turned off. There is nothing worse than already starting the match off on the wrong foot. People have already beaten you to sniping positions, etc., etc. You don't want to join already going battles. And now we're going to skip over air battles and heli battle settings. I feel like I can speak on ground vehicle settings much more than I can for any other game mode, just because this is what I have the most experience in. Starting from the top, you have grass and tank sight. Turn this off. Grass is just going to obstruct your vision when you're trying to shoot somebody. You're definitely going to have this off. Then next up, tactical map scale. This is kind of a preference. Maybe you prefer having your tactical map small, but having this scaled up to 133%, I don't find it obstructs the screen. I don't find it obstructs anything. It just makes it easier to see pings on the map and position of my teammates and things like that. So I would recommend turning this up to 133%. Show compass in third-person view. You're going to want to have this on. It's basically a compass that is on the top of your screen, and you can get a rough idea of call-out direction by using compass in third-person view. So I definitely recommend having that on. This is an optional thing. Color scheme for thermal sight. I would just leave this. I would just leave this on white, but you can go green or red. And some people might like this. This is called block vertical aiming while braking. I personally never used this. I've heard of some people using this. Basically, it just stops your gun from moving up or down when you're braking. Maybe it's good. I personally don't use it, but maybe it's worth checking out. Next up is going to be battle interface. There's nothing too much here. I play around with the color sometimes if it makes it easier for me to see. You're going to want to have fuel indication, ammo indication, and temperature indication always on. These are going to be on like auto or only on sim. This is going to tell you, are your engines overheating? Are you almost out of ammo? When you're playing, let's say, Tank RB and you're in a plane, you're definitely going to want to have these on always. And this is maybe a nitpicky thing or maybe an optional thing. Personally, I leave it on any or semi-historical. Keep in mind that there's skins like the black skin for the Object 279. That's basically an all-black skin. That could be an advantage. So something to consider if you're really, looking for every little advantage. You might want to just turn this on historical. Moving on to graphics. This is where you're going to see some of the major advantages. Now, personally, I like to have my game look good, but also want to play on a competitive level or with a competitive edge. I'm not somebody that drops their settings to ULQ because I don't want to do that. I want to play a pretty game. But there are a few things in here that definitely give you an advantage and do not really sacrifice the aesthetic look of the game, which will appeal to a lot of people. So start off with heat haze. You're going to want to have this off 100%. Heat haze is literally going to do nothing for you except distort the view in your scope if there's fire or heat in front of you. So turn this off. Lens flare. This is going to be the kind of rainbow colored dots that appear through a lens if you're looking towards the sun. It's only an aesthetic thing, and it only serves to impair your vision or block your ability to see certain things while you're driving. And I mean, I would just turn it off personally. Detailed foliage. I can't notice whether when this is on or off, so I just keep it off. But the big thing here is particle density. If you are playing and do not have particle density turned down, you are at a disadvantage. 100% at a disadvantage, as you can see in this clip here. Now, as you can see in that clip, it's pretty dramatic, the difference. I have to say, the difference is very dramatic. So you want to have that off for sure. Another couple small things I'd like to cover are small object shadows. I really don't notice a difference with this, but less shadows might give you a minor advantage. And then one other thing to note is HQFXAA. This is going to provide you the best, sharpest image. So if you can handle turning this on, I would recommend doing it. All of the other ones don't provide as clean or as sharp of an image. The last thing I want to touch on in graphics is shadows. Now, shadows is similar to particle effects or particle density in that it increases your ability to spot people, basically. Shadows on effects, I really find doesn't affect too much of anything. The big things here are object shadows and shadows. Object shadows, that's going to be your bush shadows, your tree shadows, or I should say certain bushes and certain tree shadows. When you turn this off, a lot of shadows will be removed. Let's say you're looking at a forest. A lot of the shadows will be removed. And then the one thing I did notice with turning shadows off is it even further reduced the dust effect on sand maps. But personally, I wouldn't turn these all the way off. I just don't think it provides enough an advantage, and it makes your game look terrible. But if you're looking for every single edge, then yeah, I guess turning shadows off altogether does give you a slight advantage. If I was looking to just get a competitive edge and not lose all of the aesthetic views in this game, I would just turn off object shadows. I have them on, but turning these off will help you spot people in wooded areas and things like that, as you can see from this clip. Now for sounds, this is going to be a lot of personal preference, but there are going to be a few settings in here that you are definitely going to want to follow. Starting off with that, you're going to want to have your volume maxed out. Definitely want to have your volume maxed out and just use all the other sliders to modify that sound. Personally, I turn off music. I usually turn off music in menu as well. But the big thing here is you want to look for other player's engine volume and my engine volume. You're going to want to max out other player's engine volume. That way it's easier to hear if somebody's coming around a corner, etc. And then you want to turn your engine volume all the way down. You really don't need to hear your own engine, and in the recent patch, they made it so you can only turn it down to 50% rather than like 25, I think it was before. So this always changes, but turn it as low as it will possibly go, basically. And then the next thing I would like to touch on is gunfire volume and sound effects volume. I would turn these down to about 70. I feel like this is a good volume to, be aware of what's going on, hear the sounds going on around you, but not have it overpower your ability to hear enemy engine sounds and stuff like that. Because gunfire volume you can use to, direct yourself towards an enemy. Radio chat volume, you can turn this off, and speech and FMV volume, you can also turn this off, but I just leave it on. If you want absolutely nothing, then I would just have, sound effects volume, engine volume, gunfire volume. That would be it. And then have your volume maxed out. The other big thing is make sure you have tinnitus volume turned off. It basically makes you deaf when you get shot. You really don't want that. Turn that off. And then I have speed of sound turned off just so that I don't hear a loud boom when somebody flies over the map. Besides that, that's about it for the sound portion of our guide. Now, going back into the hangar, go up to the top left, hit controls, and we are going to cover the biggest section here, which is going to be controls. I'm going to cover all of the... Well, okay, so there is a lot of controls for War Thunder. I'm going to be covering ground vehicle controls. So there's some optional things that I'll touch on, and there's going to be some things that they're optional, but I feel definitely give you an advantage over an opponent if you have these things bound. So first things first, under the movement tab, scroll down to the bottom just above weaponry, you have turn engine on off. This is huge. Very, very good thing to have. You definitely want to have this on. Next up is going to be under weaponry. You're going to find your fire from main caliber gun, secondary guns, machine guns, special guns. You are going to want to bind these to individual buttons. This is really important. You don't want to be that guy that has his cannon and machine gun bound to the same button. You just don't want that. Firing from special guns or secondary guns, that's going to be your secondary gun. If you're playing the mouse, you have the 128 and you have the 75. Sometimes they're labeled special guns, sometimes they're secondary guns, so you have to play around with these dependent on the vehicle, but you definitely want to be able to use that second gun. It is there for a reason. People that don't use it are at a disadvantage. These next two settings right here are going to be select primary weapon, select secondary weapon, and select machine gun. I use all of these, but this is going to be left control would be for me to switch in between my main gun and my secondary gun. And then E and Q basically enables me to go from my machine gun to my primary gun. So let's say a plane is diving in on me and I want to shoot him down, but I want to be very accurate. I hit Q, I can go into my machine gun. It's very similar to like looking through the scope view on your main gun. You get to look through the scope and aim directly at your target, and then your fire button becomes your left mouse button or whatever you use to fire your gun, and it enables you to be extremely precise with your machine gun. And I highly recommend binding your machine gun separate from your main gun and be able to switch between them. If you don't already have smoke grenades and smoke screening, you definitely want these bound. I think smoke grenades is always bound, but smoke screening might not always be bound, and definitely not for console, I don't think. So this is an optional thing. Change rate of fire. Change rate of fire only applies to certain vehicles. That's why it's optional. Something like the BMP, you can turn the fire rate down or turn the fire rate up. There's only like 2 settings, but that's something it might be worth looking into. And touching on that optional stuff, I would definitely bind a button for cruise control. It's a lifesaver, dude. You don't want to be sitting there holding down the W key. You can focus on looking for targets and stuff like that. Whole aiming mode is also optional. It's totally vehicle dependent. Some of the STRV 103s and like vehicles like the VT12 use whole aiming. Bind it, don't bind it. You might not play those vehicles. The next thing you definitely want to have is switch radar on off. This is basically your ability to fold down your radar dish. If you're playing a radar A, can help conceal yourself. Sometimes the radar dishes are huge, and then you're definitely going to want to have lock radar target on. This is just your ability to lock on to targets. Night vision mode, if you don't already have this bound, I would definitely bind this. And touching on that, IR spotlight, I would not use this. You're basically like a big beacon of light in the middle of a night map when you turn this on. Don't recommend using that. This is an optional thing. Color scheme of your thermal sight. I think we touched upon that in the options. Yeah, you can go from like white to green to red. Something you might want to try. Next up, under camera control is going to be binos. I'm pretty sure everybody has binos bound automatically. Maybe not console players. So if you do not have binos bound, please, for the love of God, bind these. Something that you might want to take note of is aim acceleration and aim acceleration delay. I don't want anything to affect my ability to move my mouse. I want my mouse to correspond exactly to how much I move my mouse on my mouse pad. That's personal preference, but I think most people will agree that you probably don't want anything externally affecting your ability to move your mouse. And the same for acceleration. This is gamepad acceleration, but I would turn that off as well. Suspension control, this is definitely an optional thing, right? So I think personally, suspension control can give you an advantage, but you need to play with that in mind. Like, not every vehicle can use it, so it's situational. And, it's just not super useful, but it can come in handy. If you're, for example, diagonal on a hill, so when you're firing, your shell's going to drift like down and to the right or up and to the left, where it's not just going vertically up and down. It's drifting one way or the other because your tank is sitting on an angle. You can use suspension control to basically make yourself level, or you can use suspension control to peak a hill and get your gun down because you can raise the back end of your tank up. So suspension control is, I think, can give you an advantage. And then the last couple things, I guess. If you don't have rangefinder bound, bind rangefinder. I don't use it too terribly much because I've played this game so much without range finding that I just don't need it. But it does come in handy with vehicle. If let's say you're trying to hit a really far shot with like a KV2 or a Sturmpanzer or something, and you're gonna have a 40-second reload or a 25-second reload, you might want to range find and make sure you're gonna hit that target before you fire. Right underneath that is crosshair lighting. This basically turns your crosshair from white to red. And in night battles, I find this really helpful. So consider looking into that. It's super awesome. Sight distance control. Some people swear by this. I personally don't use it, but basically it allows you to lock in your position in the scope with like a horizontal bar. So you know exactly where the bar is set, and you can just aim it to that exact spot again and boom, fire. I don't personally use it, but some people swear by it, so I definitely want to mention that. Moving on to common controls, this is going to be our last category before we move on to cosmetic stuff. You want to go into the basic tab and then come down to set target for squadron. This is super useful because it allows everybody in your squad to see pings you make on the map. And you can bypass the whole pinging too much on the map and not being allowed to do it. You can ping as many times as you want because only your squad members see it. Extremely useful for coordinating and stuff like that. Then you want to move down to view controls. If you don't have mouse look activation, this is just your free look. I'm pretty sure most people have that, but if you don't, you want to make sure you have that. Next up is fixed gun direction and mouse view. This is just when you're free looking in your mouse look activation, when you're in that, when you're turning your hull, let's say you're turning your hull at the same time, this makes it so your gun doesn't follow the hull. If you have it on, the gun will follow the hull while you're in free look, basically. So I usually like to have this off because if I'm trying to peek a corner, I don't want my gun to move, but maybe I want to angle my hull just in case. So I would turn that off. And then mouse smoothing, I highly recommend you put this on. It just makes your shots way smoother. But with that being said, I turn camera smoothness all the way down to 0. And then other than that, sensitivity, it's totally personal preference. But if you have it stock, I would probably recommend at least changing up the sensitivity in your zoom from your regular sensitivity. Okay guys, now we're moving on to the cosmetic portion of this video. It should be fairly quick, but as you may already know, bushes are very apparent within the game. If you don't use bushes, you are definitely at a disadvantage, and I'm going to point that out to you right now. So this is the short 75 jumbo. If you're looking, let me open up its armor profile. You're looking at the armor profile. The jumbo is encased, so this may look weak, but it's really not. It's actually extremely strong. So when you're shooting at the front of the 75 Sherman, there's going to be a few weak spots, right? So you're going to have the most typical weak spots are going to be you can shoot through the machine gun port right here. You can shot trap it. You can clip the bottom of the mantlet and it'll ricochet down into the hull. Or you can shoot the cupola. Or if you're at an angle like this, you can shoot through the track and then go through the side armor. Those are the most common ways you get killed in the jumbo. Now, let's say, for example, you have bushes on. Now, this is basically the same exact spot I was just looking. Okay. Boom. There you go. Bushes on. You can't see my cupola. You can't see my machine gun port. And my mantlet is pretty hidden. I mean, if you shot there, you might hit it just because what else is there to hit? But the point is, you're eliminating weak spots people can see easily. Not everybody has 1,000 hours in the game and knows exactly where the machine gun port of the jumbo is at 1,000 meters. So by having a bush, you know, where you can't see it, makes it way, way more difficult for somebody to shoot at you and kill you, for that matter, if you have little weak spots from the front. So hitting that teeny tiny little machine port with this all bushed up like this, or trying to shoot this cupola, I mean, veteran players are going to have an easier time doing this, but for a lot of people, even veteran players, just by having bushes on it, you're going to make it that much harder to hit those weak spots, especially at a glance. So I highly recommend using bushes. And why don't we go over the bushes that I believe are the best in the shop? Let's pull those up. You want to go open up the Warbond shop, grab yourself this box right here. Second in from the left on the top. This is the Battle Trophy bush box. And it's going to have all these bushes in it. So you can grind out your war bonds and then you can get bushes for free. Let me just point out what the best bushes are. So the ones you definitely want to get are number 1, number 2, number 3, number 7, number 8, and maybe number 9. And all the other ones kind of suck. Now, I know you're saying, Zach, what if I don't have bushes? What can I do? Well, if you don't have premium, you don't have bushes, you are limited in your options, but you can kind of still go out of your way to add a little bit of extra camo. Typically, I would say going with a dark decal, like the spade. You make it as large as you can, and then you just expand it as far as it will go over top of whatever vehicle you're on. It works better on smaller vehicles, but you know, we're here to talk about everything, so it is doable to, if you get the right decal, expand it super big and turn your whole vehicle dark green or kind of like this black tarnished color. One other thing you can do if you have premium is take your camouflage condition and turn it all the way down. With the implementation of all the dead tanks on the battlefield, turning your camouflage condition all the way down can really help you blend in with like dead tanks. Some vehicles straight up look like a dead tank. I'm not even joking. So turn your camouflage condition down if you want that extra edge. Alright guys, this is going to be the end of the video. If you enjoyed and or found this video helpful, make sure to leave me a comment and share this video so your friends can see it and also get better at War Thunder. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next one.